Welcome to the Plant-Centered and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Kitchens. Welcome back. I am so excited today to talk to Corinne. She is a certified holistic nutrition, and I think you are going to benefit so much from hearing her story of transitioning to plant-based because she empowers women to take control of their health, their hormones, so they can really live their best life. And her philosophy, which I relate to very heavily, is about getting to the root cause of your imbalances, honoring your feminine cycle, and using nutrition, mindset, lifestyle, supplementation to do all of that. This is just going to be an amazing conversation. And what I love about Corinne too is she really teaches you how to make lifestyle shifts that optimize your hormonal, your emotional, and your overall well-being, which I think is really great. So her passion, it stemmed from her own mismanaged PCOS and her own journey. So I'm really excited for you to hear how she transitioned to plant-based and what she's doing now to help other women kind of do the same thing or similar things. So welcome to the show, Corinne.
Yay, Ashley. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on. I can't wait to chat.
Yes, I'm so excited too. And so a great thing is Corinne and I met through a mutual business coach, and we're part of this mastermind group together. And it's just been incredible because we've just been able to connect with so many other amazing women who are doing such incredible things to help other people and create impact.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Corinne.
Me too. I can't wait.
Yeah. So to kind of kick things off, I mean, I know a little bit about your story, but I would love for the person listening to today to hear more about sort of how things were mismanaged, how you maybe came to find out about it, and what you did to sort of transition to a more plant-centered diet.
Yeah, amazing. So I always had an irregular period and I never really thought anything of it. It was just kind of, it would come when it wanted to, it didn't, and no one really made a big deal about it. So I was just like, okay, this is just how my period is. But then I started experiencing other things that started being more alarming to me. I was getting some facial hair growth. I was struggling with my digestion a lot. I was having constipation, and I got diagnosed with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I was having migraines and rashes all over my body, all this quote unquote random stuff. And then I eventually lost my period for 2 years. So then I was like, okay, obviously something's going on. And I got tested for PCOS, which if you don't know what that is, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. It's a metabolic reproductive disorder. And my blood work always came back normal, even though I was having all these issues. So that's why I was diagnosed without it for a really long time. And then eventually I pretty much self-diagnosed myself once I got into this world and went back to school. I was like, okay, I definitely have this. But what really started getting me into plant-based and really started me paying attention to things, because although I should have started paying attention more when my period was irregular, that wasn't something that was really affecting how I felt and my life. And because no one was making a big deal out of it, I didn't know how important it was at the time. But when I started being bloated after every single thing I ate, and I was constipated, and I just felt sluggish, and I was like, I feel like I have excess weight on me and I don't know what's going on. That's when I really started diving into nutrition, and a book, actually Kimberly Snyder's The Beauty Detox Solution, is what really, I don't know, have you ever read it?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Okay. It's really good.
Yeah.
That is what sparked my plant-based journey and my passion for nutrition, because she, really promotes a plant-centered diet. And I started changing things out. I was actually vegetarian for maybe 2 years before I started reading this book, because I had a weird encounter with meat one day at a diner, and I was like, oh, this isn't working for me. And so I cut it out, and my migraines went away actually ever since I cut meat out. So obviously there was some type of allergy or connection with that for me specifically. But my digestion was still jacked up, and I realized it was from the dairy specifically for me, and most people. So when I started cutting that out, immediately, within 2 weeks, I saw weight just literally fell off because it was all inflammation. My digestion was so much better. I was easily able to go to the bathroom. Things just started working so much better. My energy skyrocketed, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And that's what kind of sparked my passion to go back to school for nutrition, because I was a teacher for 9 years. So that was kind of what was going on at the time.
Oh my goodness. And so for years, you're seeing doctors, things aren't showing up on your labs.
Yep.
And you're like, well, what the heck is going on with me? I have IBS. Okay, yes, that's obvious. I'm not going to the
Yeah.
bathroom regularly, but what the
Yeah.
hell else is going on?
Yeah. And no one put two and two together that all these things were related to a hormonal imbalance. So a lot of times we only associate hormone problems with our period, but these migraines, these rashes, my IBS, all of it was coming from the same root cause of my unaddressed PCOS, which that root cause was inflammation and insulin resistance. And no one put any of that together. So I was just going to all different doctors, like a gastroenterologist, a dermatologist, a neurologist, my gynecologist, and they were all just throwing different pills at me, and no one was connecting any of the dots. So that was a huge piece of going back to school for holistic nutrition, knowing that everything is connected, and that it seems like with a lot of women too, they'll have so many different seemingly random symptoms, but it's really all coming from one place.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you read this book, which kind of, I mean, and obviously too, Corinne, like you advocated for yourself, like you dove into the research and tried to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, what is going on? Because obviously you knew something was up, you know your body best, but like no one
Mhm.
could figure out what was going on.
Right, exactly. And with the gynecologist, he wasn't pushing medication on me. He said, if you want, what he told me was I only needed 3 periods a year, which is total BS. And
Hmm.
I thought that I was the only person that heard that. But now working in this space, a lot of women have said that their doctor has told them the same thing, which is
Wow.
even more alarming, because that's really problematic. We definitely need a period every month, not just 3 times a year.
Yeah.
But he told me I could go on birth control to try and regulate my period, which at the time I also didn't know that birth control does not regulate your period because it completely turns off your hormonal system and turns off your ovulation. So you're not getting an actual period. But something inside of me just said, like, you know what? I'm really not interested in going on birth control right now. I didn't need it for contraceptive reasons or anything at the time. And I was just like, I want to figure out what's actually going on. So luckily he didn't push anything on me. However, he did not have any other solutions. He just said birth control or figure it out on your own. So I just kind of figured it out on my own.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people hear that. I know some of my clients have heard that, and just other people that I talk to in general. It seems like that birth control is maybe this quote solution to whatever's going on. If your period's irregular or you're having some issues, acne, cramping, whatever it is. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm curious just because you brought it up right now, how do you typically respond, when maybe someone comes to you and it's like, well, this is what my doctor is suggesting. What else is there?
Right. Yes. Okay. So they prescribe birth control, like you said, as a fix all for every solution, every problem that someone's having. And I used to get really mad at the doctors because that's just the first person on the firing squad, but it's really not their fault. It's the education system. This is what they're taught to prescribe and what they're taught is going to help people. But what it really is doing is it's putting a band-aid on whatever your problems are. So it's not getting down to the root cause. It's not healing your acne. It's not taking away your cramps. It's not regulating your period. It's just putting a band-aid on it. And then the second that you want to come off of it one day, those problems are going to come back. And it might even be worse. Most of the time it will be. So it's just like, it's a medication. We don't think of it like it's a medication, but it actually is. So aside from the fact that it completely turns off your hormonal system, it's turning off your ovulation. So you're not producing a really crucial hormone, progesterone. Ovulation is the only way we create progesterone. There is a synthetic form of progestin in it, but it's not the same. It doesn't give you the benefits of thyroid support, metabolism support, hair, skin, nails, safeguarding us from heart disease and osteoporosis later in life, like all these amazing things that progesterone does for you. It turns that off. And then it also, because it is a medication, it really messes up our gut. So a lot of women will have a lot of gut issues because it's messing up the flora in your gut, and it's also depleting you of nutrients. So of course, I believe in a woman having a choice to go on the pill. I believe everyone has the choice, but I also believe we deserve informed consent about it, because there's a lot of other side effects too of causing anxiety and depression. So a lot of women who I've worked with who have had anxiety and or depression prior to going on it, it has made it even worse going on it. And they don't understand why, because their doctors aren't telling them that that could contribute to it. So it's just something to be more cautious about before just jumping on it. And, if you are on it, don't just stop taking it. I don't recommend doing that. I really recommend transitioning off. There's a really good book called Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton. If anyone is interested in checking that out for more information. But it's just the more you know about it, the more you can make a more informed decision and actually get down to the root cause of what's going on, because no one wants to have to take a medication every day just to feel better, right? We want to actually heal the problem, and birth control just isn't doing that.
Yeah. And that's part of what you did. Like you had to get at the root cause of what was going on with you, because again, you
Mhm.
had to advocate for yourself because you're going from doctor to doctor. No one was really figuring out what was going on. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like you eventually sort of not just got to the root cause, but also too, like, I know you now, like, you're thriving, you're
Yeah.
energetic. Like, I know you feel great and you're very
Yeah.
passionate about what it is that you do with your clients, but how did you kind of get to this point as well? Because I can't imagine that that was just an easy road.
Yeah, it definitely was not. It definitely took time. And looking back, I wouldn't change anything because it led me to where I am now. But I was trying to do everything on my own because at the time there wasn't as much conversation around, coaches to help you with this kind of stuff. Like when I was going through it, it wasn't as big of an industry as it is now. So I was doing everything on my own, and I really did it like one step at a time. That's what I always recommend to my clients because it could seem super overwhelming. And a lot of my clients always ask me, like, how do you identify your root cause? And that is something you really have to work with someone to do to make sure that you are identifying the correct root cause. Because once you know that, then my journey could have been a lot shorter if I knew that from the gate. And then I was able to just heal that right away. I was just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck at certain points because I didn't know what else to do. But I read a ton of books. I went back to school for holistic nutrition and learned so much in that program. So that kind of made everything make more sense. And it got me on a really good journey with supplements and with eating, and just not just eating, because that's where we start with nutrition, but it's so much more than that, especially with PCOS and with hormones. It's really related to our lifestyle and our stress levels and our sleep and all the unsexy things that people don't want to do. And we'd rather just be like, oh, I could just eat this or take this and it will help, which of course is all a part of it. But knowing that everything is connected has really helped me on my journey of just knowing that, okay, I have so many things I could control in my life. There's so many things I can't control, but there's a lot that I can control. And if changing my sleeping patterns and the things that I'm eating and my stress levels and my workouts will help me feel amazing and keep my PCOS, because that's something that never goes away, but it's something that are always managing. If doing those things will help me have a regular period and feel normal and energetic and feel amazing, then I'm going to do those things. But it's hard to say because everyone has a different situation, but there are certain things that we could address. And it's just like thinking that your body is a whole being, and plants are so powerful. And I so like advocate for that because it lowers your inflammation. It really helps balance your blood sugar out. Of course, there's different things. And actually, when I first went vegan, that was when my period had disappeared for 2 years. And it's because I wasn't doing it properly. There's a lot of people will be like, oh, it's vegan, so it's healthy. Or I'm eating a lot of plants, so it's healthy. But I wasn't having enough healthy fats. I wasn't eating enough because it was a transition. So that's why I love that you, Ashley, you put out so much information about it, of how to do it in a healthy, sustainable way, instead of something that could, be unsustainable or where you're not nourishing yourself enough, or just thinking like, oh, I could just eat pasta all day because it's vegan. So I don't even know if I answered that question. That was a total roundabout way of answering it, but that's where my head just went.
No, that was all so, so helpful because again, like the journey wasn't easy. And I think it was so helpful too, that like you took it one step at a time. And that first
Yes.
step didn't just grant you healing right away. Like it's
No.
taken time for you to figure out how to really manage your PCOS. And Corinne, I love that you said PCOS isn't going away, but you've figured out how to manage it so that you can feel and
Yes.
live your freaking best life.
Right. Yes, exactly. It's just, that's what it is. And it's kind of trial and error because, every single person is different. Every body is different. So we're going to need different things. Every person's form of PCOS or whatever issue that you are dealing with is different, but there are commonalities that we can all really start with, like, getting 8 hours of sleep a night, having a plant-centered diet, really focusing on that's not all or nothing. It doesn't mean you have to just completely overnight stop eating all meat, all dairy, all animal products. I actually don't recommend doing it overnight because it might not be sustainable for some people. It was definitely a journey for me, for sure. I mean, I I stopped the meat right away altogether because I wasn't a huge meat person, but the dairy and the cheese I weaned out because that was, as dairy is addictive. So it was, cheese specifically. So that was a process, but just really, listening to my body more. I'm in a phase now where at first I was doing a lot of stuff for outward appearances too, of just like, I don't want to feel bloated and look 6 months pregnant anymore, which I still don't want to do that. But it was more so now of just feeling good. And I know that if I don't do this and if my period doesn't come, it causes my moods go crazy. I will feel more bloated and my joints will hurt. I'll feel more inflamed. So now I'm just looking at things like I'm listening to my body. How does my body feel after I do a specific workout? Do I feel really energized? Do I feel really depleted? How does my body feel after I eat this? How does my body feel after just 7 hours of sleep? Maybe I need more than that. So really getting in tune with your body and listening to it, which is something I think we can all do more of just getting still and listening, because there's so much noise around everywhere and it's so easy to get wrapped up in what other people are doing or what it looks like they're doing and just copying what someone else's regimen is that might not be supportive for what you actually need.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I 100% agree. And I'm like, seriously, like preach, because I mean, really, like you said, there's so much noise going on. There's so many distractions, everyone's always doing something different. Society tells us to do something. Our parents or our,
Oh
cousins
God.
tell us to do something else, our friends.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, like you said, to just like take a moment to just like listen and how are you feeling? Like, how are you
Mm.
physically feeling? Like you said, how do you feel after a workout? How do you feel after eating this meal? Like really trying to connect with yourself and what your body's trying to tell you. That is powerful. Like that's
Yeah.
unstoppable right there.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just the more that we do that, the better everything in life will be.
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like that was a huge part to your success because, you're going from doctor to doctor, really not figuring out what's going on, but you yourself was like, no, 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 like something clearly is not right. Like it's so much more
Yes.
than just IBS, like something else is going on.
Yeah.
And you really had to like, obviously you did a deep dive into nutrition and, went back to school and all that kind of stuff, but you also listened and you listened throughout the process too, and took that feedback and responded accordingly.
Right. And that's something that a lot of my clients will come to me and be like, I feel crazy because I'll tell my doctor, like, I don't feel right, or, my hair is falling out or they'll just be like, oh, it's from, they'll just say, oh, it's fine. You're getting older, or you're 30 now. So that's why this is all happening. Or that's why you're not able to lose weight anymore, because now you're 30, or all these things where they feel crazy because they're like, I know something is off, but my blood work is coming back normal. And of course, I'm a proponent of getting blood work and running your labs. It's really important to check all those numbers out, but it's just not the end all be all, especially with hormone levels, because the normal ranges are just not the optimal ranges. So
Mhm.
that's why seeing maybe like a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor or a holistic nutritionist who will look at ranges in more of an optimal way is really important, because and also looking at what is actually going on in the person. What are the symptoms that they're presenting with? Because the body doesn't lie. And that is what I always really look at with somebody, because I don't care what my blood work said. I still had no period. I had facial hair growth. I had IBS. I had all these rashes and migraines. Like obviously something was wrong, because our body is not meant to just do that. So it doesn't matter what the blood work was saying. I knew something was up, and just trusting yourself enough to know that keep advocating for yourself, go to a different doctor, look for, a more natural approach. If you know that something is off and you're not getting the response that you need, you're not obligated to stay with that doctor. You could look somewhere else for someone who is actually going to help you in a more supportive way.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I totally agree with that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So much good stuff. Y'all, okay, if you're like listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, like this has raised a lot of questions, or I need to talk to Corinne more, like seriously, we're going to put her information in the show notes and she's going to tell us where to find her, but reach out to Corinne, ask her some questions. She also has like great programs going on, and she provides invaluable information all the time, just related to this stuff, because I don't, I don't know about you, but I just don't feel like it's talked about enough, especially like women's health, our cycle, what that's supposed to look like. I know one thing that you've talked about before that really struck me is like, we're really not meant, and correct me if I'm wrong, like to have really painful periods.
Yes.
So that struck a chord with me, and I like did some more research after you talked about that. So Corinne's just constantly putting out just fabulous information related to this topic.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. And these are just societal myths that we hear, where your period is supposed to be painful. You're supposed to be a nightmare the 2 weeks before your period of crazy PMS symptoms, like all this stuff is just not true. And of course, we're not meant to be in pain like that, just getting our period. And this is a reason why so many women who have endometriosis go undiagnosed for decades, because they've started having really, really painful periods in like high school and they just think it's normal. So it goes unaddressed for so many years. So if you are in pain, just know that it is not normal and there is a way to relieve it. And eating plants is, if you do have endometriosis, my clients who have had endometriosis, who have gone vegan, have seen unbelievable results because it lowers their inflammation so much. So just another reason why I'm so such an advocate for plant-based eating.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can see why I'd want to have Corinne on the show, because she is just so incredible and she's such an advocate in so many ways, which is so great. So yeah. Well, thank you for being here. I mean, if there's anything else that you want to say, definitely, feel free to do that. But also too, we have to know where to find you, because I know some people listening have some questions for you.
Yes. Oh my God. Ashley, thank you so much for having me on. I could talk to you all day long. You could find me on Instagram at Corinne Angelica. I also have a podcast called Mind Your Hormones that I have a ton of information on. Those are the easiest two places to find me. And just something to leave with everybody is what we've been talking about is really just start getting in tune and listening to your body. And if you feel like something is off, you're not crazy, and really just address that and take it one step at a time. With even plant-based eating, just maybe switch over your breakfast to plant-based, or just do things one step at a time. We always think that it needs to be like an all or nothing approach, and that just isn't sustainable. Like, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So just start small, and small changes over time result in huge life-changing results. So that's what I want to leave you with.
Yes. I love that. Small changes over time leads to huge life-changing results. Amen.
Yes.
I love it. All right, Corinne. Well, thank you so much for just sharing this really valuable information with everybody.
Of course, Ashley. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Until next time, keep thriving.